Good evening, folks. Thanks for watching. Good to have you with us. Senate Republicans are going to get yet another chance to prove to the American people that they actually care about jobs. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid plans to make Republicans vote on a bill to fund teachers, police officers, firefighters before the end of this week. Now, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is warning Harry not to do it.
They're actually designing legislation to fail on the other side, so they'll have someone else to blame for the economy 13 months from now.
Give us a break, McConnell. McConnell's whining about the Democrats putting a measly, get this, a 0.5% tax on people making $1 million and above to pay for this bill. Think about that. The first $1 million, if you're in that category, you're not going to get taxed at all. But the first dollar past $1 million, it's 0.5%. Mitch has also been out of shape because Harry Reid said Republicans want the economy to fail.
My friend, the majority leader, is out there telling people the Republicans are rooting for the economy to fail. Nothing could be further from the truth. Look, if Republicans wanted the economy to fail, we'd all line up behind the president's economic policies rather than opposing them, because they haven't solved this jobs crisis. We've been there, we've done that. The president got everything he wanted the first 2 years he was in office.
Really? The gentleman from Kentucky is completely wrong. President Obama faced more filibusters in his first 2 years than any other president ever has. It was a record number. A few times, President Obama did get something through the Senate. It saved 1 million jobs in the automobile industry and prevented another Great Depression. The president's jobs bill will put 2 million Americans back to work, and McConnell refuses to give the White House a win. It's all about winning politically. The minority leader wants President Obama to park the bus and stop campaigning.
It's completely preposterous at a time when 14 million Americans are looking for a job in this country for the president to be riding around on a bus saying we should raise taxes. Think about that. We've got 14 million people out of work and 2 self-identified conservatives for every liberal in this country. And the president's out there doing his best Howard Dean impersonation.
You know, McConnell might be onto something. The president should incorporate Howard Dean's 50-state strategy. I'm all about it. President Obama should visit every state and show people this number. Show Americans that 63% of Republicans are in favor of providing federal money to state governments to hire teachers and first responders. President Obama needs to shout about the Republicans ignoring their own voters. The president needs to stay on the bus and follow this roadmap.
We're going to California and Texas and New York, and we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan, and then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Yeah!
And don't forget Ohio, where Senate Bill 5, the vote coming up on November 8th. Mr. President, you need to be there, in my opinion. Vice President Joe Biden, he isn't shy about campaigning. He hammered the Republicans in Pennsylvania on Tuesday.
People say we're campaigning. We sure in heck are campaigning. We're campaigning to change this environment. Change this environment.
The vice president is President Obama's best weapon in the fight for the 99% movement. Today, the vice president met with members of the international firefighters in the nation's capital. The vice president clearly laid out the stakes.
Are you going to put 400,000 school teachers back in classrooms? Are you going to put 18,000 cops back in the street and 7,000 firefighters back in the firehouses? Or are you going to save people with average incomes of $1 million, a 0.5% increase in tax on every dollar they make over $1 million?
Biden is spot on. For the last few nights, we have listed the names of the senators who voted against the president's bill. The crawl will stay on the bottom of the screen until the Republicans quit obstructing American jobs. And grasp again, if I may, what we're talking about here. This is how we would pay for this. Piecemealing it out from the American Jobs Act. Let's just get these folks covered and into the economy again, for education, of course, for firefighters, and of course also for police officers. 0.5%, a half a percentage point for every dollar you make over $1 million. It's a fraction. If you make $1.1 million, we're talking about a $500 put into the government for this. And the Republicans don't want to do it. It's amazing. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question, is Harry Reid right? Do Republicans want the economy to fail? Text A for yes, text B for no to 622-639. Our blog is ready for you at ed.msnbc.com. We'll bring you the results later on in the show. Joining me now is Harold Schaitberger, good friend of mine. He is the president of the International Association of Firefighters. Harold, great to have you with us tonight. You were with the vice president today. What will the American Jobs Bill mean to firefighters? To just put it right in direct context for our viewers tonight, what does this mean?
Well, first of all, it means jobs. It means jobs for teachers to be put back in the classrooms. It means jobs for cops to be put back on the beat. It means jobs for firefighters and paramedics to be back in their stations and on their apparatus to respond to the next emergency. And Ed, what is so incredible about this is that this is about 400,000 jobs, teachers, cops, and firefighters, providing some of the most essential services that our government is supposed to provide to the citizens of our nation. The very reason to have government is to educate our children, to keep our streets safe, and to be able to respond to the next emergency that a citizen could experience. And these jobs, these 400,000 jobs, will be paying for mortgages, buying automobiles. They'll be consuming. They'll be helping to fuel this economy while helping to keep our communities safe and our
Harold,
children educated.
Mr. Schaitberger, you heard Mitch McConnell there on those sound cuts. That's the first thing he did on the Senate floor this morning. They're spot on going after it for their base. But is the Republican obstruction putting American lives at risk? Is that the case?
Well, I'll tell you, I heard on the lead up to this, he used the word preposterous. I'll tell you what's preposterous, Ed. It's preposterous that Senator McConnell and the Republican caucus would see fit to vote no against keeping our communities safe, against trying to make sure that we're able to respond to the emergencies that our citizens experience. They always talk about entrepreneurials and that the private sector will create jobs. Well, who is going to teach the children to become the next set of entrepreneurs? Who's going to be the next engineers and the next doctors? It's our school system. It's our teachers. Yeah. This is about essential government services, but at the same time, it's about putting hundreds of thousands of people back to work that have lost their jobs.
Mr. Schaitberger, earlier this year when we were in Wisconsin, you told me that the International Association of Firefighters would not support any candidate who doesn't back labor. Where do you stand right now? It seemed to me that Vice President Biden is pretty much in your corner.
Well, first of all, Vice President Biden has been an incredible friend of workers and working America and the working middle class his entire 40-year public career. And we are going to hold everybody accountable, Ed. It's no different than it was this spring.
Yeah.
This is a very simple choice right now.
Do you back President
Obama right now? Members of the United States Senate Members of the United States Senate have a choice this week. They can choose to put people back to work, to educate our children, and to keep our communities safe, or they can take the political expediency to try to maybe influence an election and to block our economy recovering and people actually getting jobs again.
And
that's what the choice is.
Does your organization support President Obama right now?
We are supporting President Obama. We support the administration, and we're going to support anyone who continues to support the ability for our members to have jobs, to do their service, to be able to provide the incredible and important work that is so important in all of our neighborhoods and communities.
Harold Schaitberger, always a pleasure. Good to have you with us tonight on the program. Now let's turn to Democratic strategist Krystal Ball and the host of the Ring of Fire radio show and Ed Show contributor Mike Papantonio. Great to have both of you with us tonight. Krystal, is the president doing the right thing with the bus tour? Should he continue this? Is it working?
It's absolutely working. I mean, 75% of Americans agree with getting firefighters and teachers back to work. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. This is what the president should have been doing a long time ago, taking his case to the American people rather than trying to negotiate with a bunch of people who, quite frankly, have no interest in negotiating. It's resonating, and if this is his Howard Dean impression, as Mitch McConnell said, I'd love to see more of it. It's going over great in my book.
Pap, do the Republicans want the economy to fail? Is Harry Reid right when he says that?
That's part of the program. Look, unfortunately, the only way the GOP could be so cockeyed and confused about their position on job creation is they're spending too much time reading the damn Drudge Report or listening to Fox News spin about how bad Obama's doing with the economy. My advice to Boehner is look at the polls and see how seriously Republicans look helpless, like helpless losers here. Newsflash to Cantor and Boehner. Obama's job stimulus bus tour is working. It's killing the Republicans. A majority on both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats, believe in Obama's program. Not parts of it, but all of it. What Boehner and McConnell really should be worried about, Ed, is that virtually every credible poll is now showing that most Americans believe that Obama and the Democrats are better able to solve the unemployment problem in this country than the Republicans. Boehner better think again before he has his whiny, out-of-touch Republicans lead another filibuster to prevent job creation in America, because right now the Republicans are being blamed for the problem. They're not part of the solution. They're part of the problem. Understand, the Republicans didn't just filibuster, Ed, to stop a vote on the jobs bill. They filibustered to completely stop a discussion at all about the debate, just cut off the debate at all. 14 million Americans out of work, and they don't want to talk about it.
Well, I found the interview with Jake Tapper pretty interesting, Crystal, because the president talked about filibusters. Mm-hmm. He hasn't talked about that I know of in the past, and talked about the obstruction that he has faced. Is that a good path for him to take?
Well, I think absolutely, because the Republicans have been coming up with this narrative that the president got everything he wanted in the first 2 years. He had a Democratic Congress, he had a Democratic Senate, so of course he got everything he wanted. When the reality was, Republicans from day one said, we will defeat this president, and they did everything they could to obstruct progress, to obstruct a focus on jobs, to obstruct doing anything that would help the American people. So I think it's very helpful. You know, sometimes we have short memories, and sometimes we forget the way things actually went down. Yeah. So I think it is important for the president to remind folks that these Republicans have been obstructing from the very beginning of his administration.
Well, I tell you what, it's amazing that Mitch McConnell can throw out sound bites like that this president's gotten everything he's wanted. But you go on the street, you ask somebody what a filibuster is. Most folks don't know what it is. They don't know the rules of the Senate. Right. I venture to say that. But, Pat, what about the millionaires? Do you think that the majority of wealthy people in this country would be okay with 0.5% over $1 million? What do you think?
They do. I don't think they have problems with it, Ed, because most millionaires understand they believe in capitalism. And in order for capitalism to work, you have to put money into the system. You have to move it by, if you move it by way of government into people's hands, that works. Most millionaires believe in capitalism and become millionaires by believing in capitalism. In order to do that, we have to put money in the hands of people. And this is one way to go about doing it.
All right.
So, I don't think most people would have problems with that.
Crystal Ball, Mike Papantonio, great to have you on the program tonight. Thanks so much. And before we continue, we want to tell you about a programming note. Beginning on Monday, the Ed Show will begin its new time slot, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, 6 Mountain, and 5 o'clock on the West Coast. I appreciate all of you who have been watching us here at 10 o'clock. I hope you'll join us 2 hours earlier starting Monday. Today on my radio show, I got a phone call from a gentleman who is 57 years old in Chicago. And we had a conversation. He said, Ed, you know, we're hurting out here. He says, I've lost everything. I've lost my home. I had to give up my home to pay all my bills, and we're hurting, and I need a job. I've been out of work for 14 months. So I just want you to know, I feel very fortunate to be able to sit here in front of this camera every night and to have a job. It's a good time to have a job. It's always a good time to have a job. I feel very fortunate. I hope you'll follow us to 8 o'clock, and we will continue to do the same kinds of stories with the same commentary at 8 o'clock that what we have done at 6 and at 10, and now we're at 8 o'clock. In fact, MSNBC could put my show anywhere. I'm just glad to be here. Don't forget to answer tonight's question there at the bottom of the screen. I want to know what you think. Mitt Romney and Rick Perry went at it last night. We'll survey the damage. And tragedy in John Kasich's Ohio. A man sets dozens of exotic animals loose and then takes his own life. A very sad story. Authorities were forced to kill nearly 50 of these aggressive creatures. And according to neighbors, the animals had a history of getting loose.
We was going down the ridge one day, me and a couple friends, and seen a buffalo, a camel, and a giraffe walking down the road. It's pretty crazy. We thought we was drunk, but we ain't been drinking yet. It was only like 3 in the afternoon.
You don't want to miss the latest on this story. Stay with us.